So this session is a look at what grants are, how to use them, how to apply for them, and hopefully it gives you a bit of information to feel better prepared when looking at grants and looking to apply for one. So what we'll be looking first of all is, what is a grant? A lot of people know them as just being free money, but we'll explain exactly what they are and what's expected of you when you get a grant and when to apply for one, where to find them, what to include in your application, how are they assessed, is it a competitive process, what are the milestones that we look at, and what to do once you get your grant, and also once you've done the project, what happens after that. As I said before, there'll be a Q&A right throughout the event if you want to pop up with any questions halfway through the session, or if you want to leave them at the end, that's fine as well. So jumping straight in to what is a grant? As I said before, a lot of people see a grant as just being a free sum of money that people get given to expand and grow their businesses. And that essentially is what it is, but there's a few things attached with that. It's not just free money without any sort of conditions. Grants are usually used to allow a business to develop, grow, make purchases, access support, guidance, etc., to help their business grow. And they are usually distributed by local authorities or central bodies who are looking to get an agenda out there, looking to develop something, looking to allow companies to achieve certain outputs and grow for the greater good of the economy, the local area, etc. With grants as well, in the second point, there will be targets. So as I mentioned there about an agenda or certain outputs, if you are looking to get a grant, they will expect some sort of information in return or some sort of output in return. They are usually increases in productivity, increase in jobs, increase in sales. So, you're not going to get the grant and they're not expecting you to not do anything for that. You'll be expected to have some sort of impact on the economy or an incentive. For example, the easiest one is if I'm looking for a grant to buy a new piece of machinery, that's great, but they will want to know, what are you going to do for that grant? So you getting that grant will benefit your business, it will grow your business, but what's going to be output? And usually they'll look at jobs. So essentially, to make it in really simple terms, if you get a grant to buy a machine, then they'll want to know how many jobs that will lead to. So by growing your business, will you impact the local economy or the wider economy with giving people jobs and creating jobs in the area? So in summary, yes, it is a free pot of money, but there's got to be outputs associated with that. The next step is, where would you go about finding a grant? A lot of people hear about grants that are out there. They maybe have a chat with colleagues, other business people in the area, similar sort of sectors, and they might hear that they've had a grant. But then a lot of people think, well, how do I even get one? How do I find out about one? Where are they? They won't be advertised on mainstream media. You will have to go and search for them. But a good place to start is your local authority. So local councils, they will tend to have a business department, and they will have access to sorts of funding that may be out there for a business. So there'll be loan funding, and they may have grant funding as well. Local intermediaries, such as accountants, possibly banks, a good place to start. You tend to find that organisations who are delivering these grants do have a good relationship with accountancy firms and banks, whereby they'll go in and have discussions and let those individuals know of what's out there, so that accountants or the banks can then pass that knowledge on to their customers. And generally, accountants assist in developing the grants as well, and pointing in the right direction. Networking groups, you may be part of business networking groups, different clubs that you will attend. And at those groups, there will be people from local advisory bodies or local business support companies or councils or banks or accountancy firms who you'll get chatting to, and they may be able to point in the right direction. And there's also local growth hubs, and they are areas within the council or a wider area, maybe combined authorities in a region, who are set up purely to have a look at advising companies on growth and support. And they'll have advice, guidance, but also they may have information on grants that are out there as well. There's also the National Business Support Helpline, where in UK only, sorry, in England only, which you can actually email on the email address there and contact over the telephone. And the individuals on that line will be able to put in your postcode, use your locality, use your region, also use your sector to look to see what sort of grants are out there. As I should have mentioned probably before, that yes, grants are sums of money, but sometimes it can be sector specific. There are grants out there for energy incentives, lowering your carbon footprint, once again creating jobs or accessing international markets. So that they'll be able to put you somewhere and point in the right direction of what sort of grants are available in your locality, but also what sort of grants are available for your sector, whether it be national grants or regional grants. And of course, on the UMI portal there, looking at finance and funding, if you utilise the website, you can put in where you are, what sort of business that you are, what sort of stage you're at, and there'll be results that'll come up that'll point in the right direction of what sort of grants are available for you as well. And on that point as well, grants, as well as being sector specific, they can be age specific as well. So there'll be grants out there for startups, which is a period of business where you've just trading and your maybe within your first 1 or 2 years. And there'll be pre-start grants, maybe to get you off the ground. They'll be few and far between. And then there will be grants for more established companies, ones that are well established in the marketplace and are looking to take the next step to grow into a different direction. So that is where you can find grants. Once you've identified a grant and once you know that there's one there for you and you know what you're looking to do, there'll be an application form and there'll be an application process. A lot of the time that starts as an expression of interest, and then that's in the application form, and then there'll be assessment at the end. In the application, first of all, what you need to do is look at your business structure. So are you a limited company? Are you a partnership? Are you a sole trader? And that will determine on which sort of grant pot you'll go into, and they'll sort of have an understanding of what sort of business that you are. They'll look at historical financial information as well. So how's your business done in the past? How they done things previously? Have they been successful? Are they loss making? Are you making profits? Have you got any financial standing to support the growth plan? And then, as well as looking at historical stuff, they'll be looking at financial forecasts. So if you go ahead with the grant and you buy the item that you're looking to buy or buy the service you're looking to buy, how will that impact your business financially? Will it increase your profits? How will your turnover be impacted? Will there be a dip? Will there be a period of stress? So they look to see what the output is, and that'll help them decide on, is the business in the right place to do this? Have they got the right sort of management in place? Have they got the right sort of financial tools in place and structures? So it's looking at the basis of your company to see what sort of business you are, and are you able to do this? And they'll look at if the business and project is viable, and they'll also look at, can it be delivered? So I suppose one of the things to look at on that would be, if you're a small business at the moment and you may be turning over, I don't know, for example, £50,000, but you've got an opportunity to grow, but that growth looks like an investment of £1 million and you're looking to turn over £1.2 million in 3 years. That would be something they would be concerned about, looking at the viability. Can you do it? Can you deliver it? Can you take a business from one size and redevelop into a massive company? So they look at that as well. So the financials are really, really important to see where you've come from, how you're doing already, and where you're going to go to. And is that feasible? Is that correct? And can the business manage it? Is that investment right for the business, or is it just a stretch too far? And will you get the right results at the end of it? Experience is a massive factor as well. They will look at the directors, the ownership, who actually runs the business, and what experience they've got in that market. If you're well experienced in, for example, manufacturing, and you want to go ahead and develop the manufacturing side of your business, and you want to grow in that sector, then you're well experienced. You know what you're doing. But if you're a design company but want to move into manufacturing, they'll look to see what sort of background you've got. So there's a couple of hurdles you need to overcome, but if you're a business that is serious about what you're looking to do, then all these things should be fairly straightforward. So the grants aren't something that you should go into lightly, the application process. It's something where you should be able to know what you're doing, where you've come from, and why you're going to be doing it. And you should have the experience within the business to understand what you are going to be doing. The next stage, an item that they look at is project information. What is it that you're buying? They need to understand what is it that you want to do. A lot of the times it's items of machinery. Sometimes it's websites. But what is the purpose of that? What is the reason for doing it? Why do you need to buy that? What's the cost? Is the cost correct? Does it meet the criteria of that particular grant? Some grant schemes will look at, they'll have a minimum spend. So, for example, some of the grant schemes that we've dealt with most recently have a minimum spend of £100,000. So you've got to at least meet that ceiling or minimum spend before you can look to access the grant, and the grant will be a percentage of that. And then just going back to the financial forecast side of things, they need to look at your financial controls and is your business able to fund the project? If you do fund it, how do you need the grant? Where does the grant fit? Are you able to fund it? Some grant schemes don't want you to buy the items first, and then you get the fund retrospectively. So they need to see if you're okay with that, and can you do that? Have you got the finance in place? Have you got the management in place? Do you understand the risks along with it, and the costs that you've got with the project? Can they be met? The next section is the growth plan. So going through these pointers, we know what your business are doing. We know where they've come from. We know what they're looking to do. You're financially sound. You've got experience within the business, and you know exactly what you want to purchase or what you want to invest in. The next question is, what is your growth plan? So why? What is the output going to be? Why are you doing this? It's not sufficient to say, well, there might be an opportunity out there to grow. We're a bit speculative. We're in a position in the marketplace where we need to maybe look into it further, but we just want to buy this machine because there might be a chance. That's not really good enough. You would need to look at what's called a business case. So for you to invest in this item or this service, what's going to happen to your business? Is it going to increase turnover? Is it going to create jobs? Is it going to position you better in the marketplace? Is it going to strengthen your position in the marketplace? Are you actually going to grow, or will you stagnate? Will this new bit of kit or new bit of investment, will that do anything for your business? Or what will this do to your business? So yes, we know what you're buying. We know you're a great company, but why are you buying it? What's the reason behind it? And the next section is your need for grant. And a lot of the time it's called additionality. And this is probably the most juiciest bit of a grant application. So we've gone through who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, what's the output's going to be, but why do you need the grant? It's not sufficient to say, well, there's a grant available for me. I can get 25% against my spend. That won't hold any sort of weight with the application. So you need to really think about why you're asking for the grant. And I suppose the best way for me to illustrate that is to go through examples of additionality arguments that we've had that seem to clearly explain the need for grant. And one of the most common ones is that we haven't got the money to do it. Now, a lot of the time, the grant applications and the grant process, they do invest once you've spent the money, so it'll be retrospectively paid. So you need to have the money in place. So when you do have what's called a cash gap, that will be from possibly the fixed costs of doing the project. So, for example, if you buy a piece of machinery and you have to employ extra staff, you've made this investment. You may have bought it out using a loan. You may have utilised reserves. But as the months go on with the fixed costs, those fixed costs may start eating into your cash flow, your working capital, money you may have as a buffer. So you may have an artificial level where you don't want to drop below £100,000, for example, in your working capital for unforeseen circumstances. if the project makes you do that and makes you go into a position where you feel it's too risky and you're uncomfortable because your working capital has been eaten away, then that's a satisfactory grant argument. So you need a grant to help you maintain your required level. And whatever your level may be, you'll be asked on that. But what you need to display is why that's your level. But that is a realistic argument. So yes, I need the grant because if I make this investment, and even if all goes well, I've got increased costs while I'm waiting for certain things to come to fruition. That equates to, in my cash flow, £50,000. So I would really need the grant to fill that hole, to accommodate that gap. And without that grant, it's too risky. I don't want to go ahead with it. So that's one of the arguments that you've got there. The other argument that you could have is purely based on risk. So the scenarios that you'll have will be, if we buy this machine and we do really well from it, the marketplace is there, the market's crying out for it, we need to do this, we will turn over or make a profit of X amount. Within 2 years, we'll be at a certain point and it'll be great and we'll do exactly what we're looking to do. That's fantastic. But on the flip side of that, there will be sensitivities applied. There could be delays. There could be delays in recruitment. There could be delays in the machinery. There could be delays in actually tapping into that marketplace. And given the current economic status of the UK and Europe and how things are fluctuating, there could be various different factors that would impact you actually getting those results. So what you may want to do for this risk-based argument is present what will happen best case scenario, but what will happen worst case scenario, and apply for the grant based on the difference between those two levels. So it could be profit or it could be turnover. For example, you could say, right, if we do it well and we invest and we get this bit of kit, we have a projection over 2 years of £500,000 of being our profit. However, if there are delays, things go belly up, things don't actually work out how we want them to, we may have a scenario where we only make £250,000. So the difference between the 500,000 and the £250,000 is the 250. So we would feel comfortable asking for a grant of 50% of the risk. So you'd be asking for the difference between, well, 50% of the 250, sorry. So £125,000 would be your grant application amount. And then the third one is around leverage. So you may have the opportunity to grow the business and you may have already got investors lined up, but they may not give you the investment without the promise of a grant. And banks may be the same. We will give you the loan, or investors will give you this, but we need to see that you're getting a grant of £100,000. And without that, we won't give the investment. So the grant may be there to unlock investment from, like I say, investors, banks, or even a parent company may have an internal rate where they'll say, right, we'll give you the money to do the project, but we need to make sure that you hit an internal rate. And that's what the grant will do. The grant amount has to be specifically tailored to meet that. There are other grant scenarios that that are not as common, such as mobility. You may want to move to a different area, but it's more expensive, but it makes more sense to move there. Then you've got to look at what the difference is between that area and what the costs are compared to where you currently are. And the grant will need to offset the increased costs to level the playing field. So they're a very high level oversights of what additionality looks at. And then once you've got all of that in place, and that's your application form, it'll then go to a review, and it'll be reviewed by individuals, or on some occasions an investment panel, where it'll be local business people, experienced business people, or a forum who will discuss your application. And it may be a competitive process, or it'll be a scoring mechanism where they'll look to see what sort of scores you get against the criteria. And that, hopefully, all being well and you're successful, they will then approve the grant, and then you'll be able to go off and get on your way. Once that's happened and you've got the grant in place, or you've been approved for the grant, usually what happens, well, not usually, but on some occasions, you go through a due diligence process. And that's basically when an independent person or party come in and they look at what you've said, and is it true? Is it viable? and they'll look through it. And once that's been done, and everybody's happy with it, and it's all been agreed and signed off, then you will receive your offer letter. And that offer letter will have on there the dates of when you can start purchasing the items, because you can't start before then, because that would negate the need for a grant if you were able to start a project before getting the grant, because that would just destroy any sort of grant argument. And it'll also outline the timescales and the outputs. So that grant offer letter will be your contract for the grant. It will be how much the grant is for, how much you're expected to spend, what is it you're looking to buy, what is it what percentage you're going to get, obviously, of the grant, and how you'll be required to put a claim in, and the claim will be how you claim the money back. So the offer letter will have the items in there that you need to adhere to, so it's a contract. Once you've got the grant, once you've bought the items, and once you're doing what you need to do, you'll then be part of a claim process where you'll be asked to provide evidence. So everything you do buy, please keep a hold of statements to prove that the business actually paid for it, any sort of HP agreements, any sort of agreements that relate to that spend, and then also invoices, so the invoices can be looked at. And then there'll also be a visit as well. So the individuals who are delivering the grant will send, I suppose, an auditor out to look to see, have you bought what you said you're going to buy? So it's not a case of, here's the grant, go away, we won't ask you any questions. What have you bought? Where is it? And you must keep it for time within the area. And that's where monitoring comes in. So once you've got the grant, you'll be monitored over a certain time scale, depending on how big the business is, based on, have you created the jobs, have you bought the item, have you still bought the item? And that's pretty much it, really, with what it looks like to apply for a grant. So where you get it from, how you apply for it, what they're looking for, how it's assessed, and then what happens once you've actually got it. So you've bought your machine and it's now going to be assessed, and you're under a monitoring period. A lot of people don't realize that you do get reviewed for an ongoing period. Could be 3 years, could be 5 years, could be 10. So the next steps really for anybody on this session is looking at where your grants may be. Do they fit your criteria? Do you understand what you are expected? And this can be found on the UMI finance and funding page. And then there's also the Get Grant Ready bundle via the UMI SatNav as well. Just to go over what you need to look at. So identify which parts of the business you require funding for. What is it you want funding for? What is the minimum that you require to get this project off the ground? And then try and find grants that meet your criteria. One bit of advice I can probably give you, the main thing is, don't try and make a grant fit your business. Make sure you have a project to do and carry out, and then see if there are any grants out there that fit what you're looking to do. So that's the end of my presentation there. Hopefully it was useful. And is there any questions